Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of The Inspirationist. If you haven't guessed yet what we're covering, it's Indiana Jones. For all you indie fans out there, what I'm about to tell you is probably not anything new. For you newbies, however, here's how the great indie started. After the premiere of Star Wars, George Lucas went on a vacation with Steven Spielberg to Hawaii. While there, Spielberg brought up how he really wanted to do a Bond film. Lucas then mentioned, you know what, I've got a James Bond film. It's great. It's just like James Bond, but even better. No, I'm not doing this. No. I managed to come across a transcript detailing Spielberg and Lucas spitballing ideas for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and was able to get some hefty info here. Indiana Jones was originally Indiana Smith. They both wanted something very Americana square. Lucas named Indy after his Alaskan Malamute, Indiana, and Indiana's middle name, Walton, is Lucas's very own middle name. Smith was then changed to Jones since Spielberg hated the original last name. He found it to be too, hokey. Now, what about his memorable fedora and khaki gear? Lucas and Spielberg drew the imagery from Treasure of Sierra Madre. They wanted that memorable image of khaki pants, leather jacket, felt hat, and the pistol with the World War I holster. And what about his ever iconic bullwhip? To quote Lucas, the bullwhip is really his trademark. That's what he's really good at. You can knock somebody's belt off. You can swing over things. It's like a samurai sword. He carries it back there and you don't even notice it. It's sort of like a snake that's coiled up behind him. And anytime it strikes, it's a real threat. Regarding his personality, they wanted a soldier of fortune character. Essentially, they wanted a Indy to be intelligent and quick-witted, but double as rough and tough. Good basis and comparison would probably be the movie Soldier of Fortune with Clark Gable. It's actually kind of funny because Spielberg recalls, George said if I ever directed the first one, then I would have to direct a trilogy. He had 3 stories in mind. Turned out, George did not have 3 stories in mind. We had to make up subsequent stories. Snakes! Why did it have to be snakes? Can you guys get these off me, please? Now, regarding the inspiration for plots, Lucas and Spielberg wanted believable events that actually occurred in history. In the first film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the 2 directors drew inspiration from the year 1936. Hitler, at the time, was searching for occult items such as the spear that pierced Jesus, the Ark of the Covenant, and the Holy Grail. He believed that collecting these items would make him invincible. The Temple of Doom is based on the legend of the Sankara stones. According to Hindu lore, Sankara was a priest who ascended Mount Kalisa. And he met Shiva, the supreme god in Hinduism. Shiva gave him 5 stones with magical properties that could be used to combat evil. In the movie, they used 3. This would be the story mechanism for the surrounding plots of child slavery and the Thuggee, an actual religious cult and group of bandits that survived for several hundred years. Kalima! 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 And who doesn't know about the myth of the Holy Grail, the cup from which Jesus drank, and the relic said to have been found by King Arthur? Some say it's been lost to history. However, most of the story is based in myth. Much of the 3rd movie, The Last Crusade, was actually set up to explore the relationship between Indy and his father. This emotional touch to the film was used to make up for what Spielberg considered to be the static or boring legend of the Holy Grail. Well, Spielberg also did not like the concept because he always associated the Holy Grail with Monty Python, and it felt like he couldn't turn it into a present-day myth. Now, let's not forget about the indie girls. I myself has always wanted to be a companion of his. He has a new girl in almost every movie. And, just like, James Bond, they're all memorable. However, the most memorable, arguably, is the very first Marion Ravenwood. She was named Marion after screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan's wife's grandmother. Yeah, and her last name was adapted from Ravenwood Lane in California. Lucas and Spielberg wanted to make her different though, and felt like the 30s were a source for pretty complex female characters. They wanted to make her tomboyish and real feisty as a nice contrast to Indy. Now, to quote Spielberg, "I like the idea that she's a heavy drinker." And our hero doesn't drink at all. She gets drunk a lot. She's beautiful and she gets really sexy when she's drunk. And silly. And he doesn't touch the stuff. This really adds a rough and tough characteristic to Marion. Random fact, the bar she owns in Nepal is based on Rick's Café American from Casablanca. Now, while Spielberg admired when women could hold their own against men and win the day, he used Irene Dunne, Anne Sheridan, and Barbara Stanwyck as examples for the basis of tough women that would go in that category. Anyway, that was this week's episode of The Inspirationist. I want to thank my friends here. Here's our beautiful extra with his heart, Adrian. And here's my awesome friend with the snakes, Chris. And our friend Tasha in the back. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I want to remind you to subscribe, like, follow me on Tumblr, add me on Facebook, add me on all social medias, and just, wait for next week.